The quietest teacher in the history classroom was hiding the biggest secret. For 35 years, he had taught the Vietnam War from textbooks. No student knew this was his own story until that day. Welcome to Story Factory. Before we begin this powerful story, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these stories alive. On the second floor of Lincoln High School, in classroom 2B at the end of the hallway, the same scene played out every day. Mr. Richard Thompson, 67 years old, gray hair neatly combed, always wearing the same brown jacket, would stand in front of the blackboard and teach history. He'd been at the same school for 35 years, started as a young teacher, now just months away from retirement. Students called him Silent Thompson because he never spoke outside of class, sat alone in the faculty lounge, never married, never had children. His life consisted of school and home. His classroom was like him, organized, clean, minimalist, walls covered with historical maps, a small library in one corner, only textbooks and a few papers on his desk. No personal items, or none that were visible. Mr. Thompson's specialty was American military history, particularly the Vietnam War. Even when teaching this subject, his voice remained monotone, emotionless, as if he were recounting events that happened to someone else. Students sometimes wondered how he knew such details, but they never dared to ask. Every lesson started the same way. Today we'll examine the military tactics of the Vietnam War. Then he'd write dates, place names, military unit designations on the board. Students would take notes, wouldn't ask questions. Mr. Thompson didn't give many answers on this topic anyway. That Tuesday morning was like any other. Mr. Thompson had arrived at school at 7:30, had his coffee, prepared for class. First period was 11th grade American history. 24 students, most uninterested, some busy with their phones. Today we'll cover military operations in Vietnam between 1968 to 1970, said Mr. Thompson in his usual calm tone. He turned to the board, opened the map. Among the students was Sarah Martinez, 17 years old, one of the rare students who enjoyed history class. She always sat in the front row, took notes. She didn't see Mr. Thompson differently from others. To her, he was just a knowledgeable teacher. In 1969, particularly operations conducted in Tay Ninh province. Mr. Thompson continued while Sarah was taking notes, but this time she noticed different details. The teacher's tone had changed slightly, more personal. The forests in this region were very dense. Visibility rarely exceeded 30 feet. Navigation was nearly impossible for soldiers. As Mr. Thompson pointed on the map, Sarah noticed a small mark on his hand, very faint, but a distinct scar. When she moved closer to the desk to note this detail, Sarah saw a small photograph at the edge of Mr. Thompson's desk, among other papers. Only a corner was visible, but it was clearly black and white, an old photograph. After class ended, Sarah stayed a bit late. When other students had left, Mr. Thompson was organizing his desk. Sarah approached. Mr. Thompson, you know the Vietnam topic in great detail. Where did you acquire all this knowledge? Mr. Thompson paused, looked at her. He hesitated for a moment, then in a softer voice than usual said, "Research, Sarah." "Lots of research." Sarah gathered her courage. "The photograph on your desk, It looks old." Mr. Thompson's face changed. He looked at the photo, then quickly put it in his drawer. An old family photo, nothing important. But Sarah was certain of what she'd seen. The face in the photograph had seemed familiar, very familiar. That night at home, Sarah researched the Vietnam War, web pages, old photographs, military records, and finally, she found it. On a website, under the heading Forgotten Heroes of the Vietnam War, there was the same photograph. A young soldier, uniform, serious gaze. The caption read, "Sergeant Richard Thompson, 1st Infantry Division, 1968 to 1970. Served in operations in Tay Ninh Province, saved many comrades, awarded the Purple Heart." Sarah's mouth hung open. Mr. Thompson was a Vietnam veteran. The next day, Sarah came to school early. She found Mr. Thompson in the faculty lounge, drinking coffee alone. "Mr. Thompson, could I speak with you?" "Of course, Sarah. About the lesson?" Sarah took a breath. "About Vietnam, but not from the textbook." Mr. Thompson's hand trembled. He set his coffee cup on the table. "What do you mean?" "Sergeant Richard Thompson, 1st Infantry Division, 1968 മുതൽ 1970. A long silence. Mr. Thompson's face had paled. "How do you know that?" "I researched. I saw your photograph. You were really there, weren't you?" Mr. Thompson stood up, went to the window. He looked outside for a long time. "Sarah, I don't want to discuss this topic." "But why? You've been teaching Vietnam for 35 years. You never said." "Because things that belong in the past should stay there." But Sarah didn't give up. That afternoon after class ended, she approached him again. "Mr. Thompson, students should know this. You're a real hero." "I'm not a hero, Sarah." Mr. Thompson's voice had risen for the first time. "Heroes were the ones who died. I'm just one of those who came home." Sarah was shocked. She'd never seen him like this. "But you have the Purple Heart. You saved your comrades." "I didn't save enough." Mr. Thompson sat at his desk, put his head in his hands. "Sarah, have you read much about Vietnam?" "Yes, I did a lot of research last night." "Then you know. We sent children there, 18, 19-year-old children. Most didn't come back." Mr. Thompson opened his drawer, took out that old photograph. But this time Sarah could see, not just Mr. Thompson, but 4 more soldiers beside him. "These are my brothers in arms. Mike, 19 years old. Danny, 18th Rodriguez, 20th Johnson, 21st. As Mr. Thompson said each name, he moved his finger over the faces in the photograph. None of them made it home. Sarah listened quietly. Mr. Thompson was talking about Vietnam with someone for the first time in 35 years. "In 1969, in Tay Ninh, we were ambushed. We were under enemy fire. Mike was wounded, badly. Danny was shot, trying to help him. Rodriguez was our radio operator, tried to call for help, but..." Mr. Thompson stopped, took a deep breath. "I tried to carry them, one by one, to the safe zone, but it was too far. I took Danny first. When I came back, Mike was dying. While carrying Rodriguez, I was shot, too." He showed the old scar on his hand. "Johnson. I couldn't save Johnson. I had to leave him there." Sarah's eyes had filled with tears. "That's why I've been teaching Vietnam from books for 35 years, because I can't tell the truth. The truth is too painful." When he entered class the next day, Mr. Thompson noticed Sarah looking at him. Other students hadn't noticed, but there was now a bond between them. Today I'm going to give you a slightly different lesson," said Mr. Thompson. Students were surprised. The man who'd given the same lesson for 35 years was going to do something different. You've read about the Vietnam War in books. You know the numbers, dates, strategies. But have you ever heard the human face of war? The class fell silent. This tone was very different. War isn't just maps, dates, and numbers. War is about people. Young people. People your age. Mr. Thompson took that old photograph from his desk, looked at Sarah. Sarah nodded. This photograph was taken in 1969, in Tay Ninh province. Students leaned forward. They'd never seen such a photograph. These 5 young men. 4 of them didn't come home. That day, Mr. Thompson gave his first real Vietnam lesson in 35 years. He told things not written in books. Fear, friendship, loss, survivor's guilt. War is not heroism, children. War is trying to survive, and sometimes it's losing your friends. Students had never listened so attentively. Sarah had started crying. "So why did you become a teacher, Mr. Thompson?" asked Jake, from the back row of the class. "Because I didn't want them to be forgotten. I didn't want them to be forgotten. Every Vietnam lesson is a story told for them." When class ended, no one moved. Everyone was affected. Sarah approached. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for telling the truth. Thank you, Sarah, for forcing me to." The news spread quickly. Word that Mr. Thompson was a Vietnam veteran, that he'd hidden this for 35 years, reached the entire school. Students began looking at him differently. Principal Mr. Harrison called Mr. Thompson to his office. "Richard, why didn't you ever say anything?" "Because it wasn't necessary. I'm a history teacher, that's all. But this is incredible. As a school, we're proud. Maybe we could organize a presentation, the local newspaper." "No." Mr. Thompson spoke firmly. "I didn't do this for show. Students deserved to know the truth, that's all." From that week on, Mr. Thompson's classes changed. He was no longer just reading from textbooks. History had become more personal, more real. Students were asking questions, discussing. Sarah often stayed after class, learning more. Mr. Thompson no longer hesitated to share his memories. "You know, Sarah, for 35 years I've wondered, would I disappoint them if I told what we experienced there? What conclusion did you reach? I was disappointing them by forgetting them, by not telling their stories." In May, Mr. Thompson would retire. In his last class, he brought a gift to the classroom, an enlarged version of that old photograph. On the back, their names: Mike Reynolds, 19, Danny Sullivan, 18, Carlos Rodriguez, 20, James Johnson, 21. "Don't forget them," he said. "None of you forget them." At the retirement ceremony, Mr. Thompson was asked to speak. Everyone wondered what the man who had barely spoken for 35 years would say. Teaching. Teaching is not just transferring knowledge. Sometimes it's sharing lessons from the past. Sometimes it's keeping forgotten stories alive. There was silence in the hall. I taught Vietnam for 35 years. But for the last few months, I've been bringing Vietnam to life. The difference is huge. Sarah sat in the front row, crying. If I taught anything at this school, it's this. Everyone has a story. Sometimes sharing those stories takes courage. But when they're shared, they become valuable for everyone. After the ceremony ended, Sarah approached Mr. Thompson. "I've decided to study history in college," she said. "Why?" "To be like you, to keep forgotten stories alive." Mr. Thompson smiled. After 35 years, he was truly happy for the first time. Then I succeeded. One of my students understood the importance of stories. Sarah extended her hand. Mr. Thompson, Richard, Mike, Danny, Carlos, and James's stories are safe with me. Thank you, Sarah. That means everything to me. Sometimes the biggest stories are hidden in the quietest people. For 35 years, Mr. Thompson had taught the Vietnam War, but never brought it to life. Thanks to one student's curiosity, he made peace with both his past and his losses. And perhaps most importantly, Mike, Danny, Carlos, and James's stories would no longer be forgotten. Do you have such teachers in your life, too? People who hid their own stories but changed your life? Share their names in the comments. Because at Story Factory, we believe in keeping alive the stories waiting to be forgotten. If this story touched you, subscribe, share. Stories like this need to be heard. See you in the next video. And remember, sometimes the greatest lessons are learned outside the classroom.